Yeah.
Great. Should we get started or are we waiting?
We can wait for a minute.
Okay.
Hello, Sukanya ma'am. Thank you for joining us back again.
Thank you, Muskan, for having me here.
Okay. So I'll just begin again with a quick introduction of yours for the ones who are not available in the first session, and then we can proceed further with the session.
Absolutely.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for joining the session. So now we have with us Sukanya Dikshit ma'am. So Sukanya has been very active in the startup ecosystem from the last 5 years. She has been a serial entrepreneur and has been a part of founding team of several startups earlier. She decided to switch the sides of the table and gave back to the startup ecosystem in India by working with technology business incubators. Prior to joining DSSE IIT-Bombay, she was the Startup Incubation and Innovation Centre at IIT Kanpur as a portfolio manager. Prior to this, she also had multiple stints of working as an entrepreneur. And I hope to hear more about the entrepreneurial journey as well as more about entrepreneurship through this session. So with this, I give you the command for the session further.
Thank you so much, Muskan, for the kind words and the generous introduction. So, as I say, entrepreneurship is a crazy journey and equally rewarding as well, if you look at it, right? So entrepreneurship, it's something I have realized is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people cannot, right? Because it's putting in a lot of efforts. Definitely, it's not as easy as a 9-to-5 job. You have a 24/7 thing. You eat, sleep, walk your startup. But in the end, when you're able to cater to people, when you have an acquisition, when your startup gets acquired, it's equally rewarding. So, like you said, I have been a 2-time serial entrepreneur with exits from my startups. And yeah, I am one of the few lucky ones who got a chance to come back to IIT Bombay and give back to the student ecosystem over here. So yeah, I work with Ideas program at DSSE, the Desai Sethi School of Entrepreneurship. And we fill the gap of pre-incubation at IIT Bombay. So today I am going to give you a little bit of glimpse of, why entrepreneurship, introduce the entire concept. So, like I say, entrepreneurship is often misrepresented as having only a startup or, building something, but definitely it's something much more and beyond that. It's a way of life. It's a mindset. And, I had the fortune to be trained by the UN women as a UN women delegate. And the only thing they focus over there is the mindset. They do not teach you any hard skills of entrepreneurship, because it's actually a mindset which enables these people to start up. And when you look at these circles, we have so many unicorns and sunicorns in India. Sunicorns meaning startups which are set to enter the unicorn club by the end of 2022 itself. And what you see on the right hand side again is some very famous IIT Bombay alumni led startups. So definitely the wave is here. The IITs are definitely seeding the next generation of entrepreneurs who are, courageous enough to think outside of the box and building great businesses, scalable and sustainable. So when you look at the total number of unicorns over the world, India stands at the 3rd place. And I'm sure within a few years or by 2025, we are set to improve this number as well. And when you look at the average time to unicorn in years for any particular startup, it ranges from anywhere between 3 to 8 years. In India, it's 8 years. But that's also significantly coming down now. So we have had startups also becoming unicorns in 6 months. So, it all depends on your speed of execution, how big the market you are serving. And when you look at the distribution of sectors of startups becoming unicorns, it ranges from fintech, software as a service, e-commerce, deep tech, health tech, and so on. And definitely these are trends which tell you, what works best in the Indian or the Asian markets. And you can accordingly, think about an idea. So, IT services essentially took off in India in 1989. We had Infosys, Wipro, HCL, Cognizant and Tata come up. And in 2015, when they had reached already a point where there were so many employees, they had hit $194 billion in revenue, exports were increasing, a lot of people were employed. So this was when there was a saturation, and we saw newer, smaller companies coming up. In 2015, actually, startups started taking off. And if you look at the projections by 2025, India aims to have around 100,000 startups. It's already 75,000, if you know. DPIIT recognized startups as 75,000 in India as of now. The startups will employ more than 3.25 million individuals. And of course, because of the increasing amount of startups, the amount of investment also that goes into startups increases. And of course, as I said, the numbers would increase by 2025, and it's projected that we would be at number 2 after US, just after US, when compared to the number of unicorns. So, what excites me more is that not that startups are coming up, but we know what these startups offer to us, right? So Swiggy and Zomato help us order food. They give us food. But when you essentially look at what is their offering for for other people in the ecosystem, you see it goes well beyond that. So they have employed some 300,000 to 500,000 delivery executives who definitely have found a way of life doing these deliveries, are running their families, and definitely much better paid than what they would have been doing other jobs. Meesho, for instance, has created micro entrepreneurs in different tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities of India. And women have actually, transformed their way of living, because it's easier to sell things on a social media platform that's so easily, built by Meesho. There's an end-to-end support system that's in place. So definitely a lot of empowerment is happening in the ecosystem today. And of course, tier 3, tier 2 cities are emerging as startup hubs. Cities like Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Kolkata, for that matter, is definitely, these cities are coming up, and we have around 150 plus funded startups based out of these cities. So you can see the kind of empowerment that's happening all over India. It's amazing. And if we talk about entrepreneurship as a concept, so, Howard Stevenson in the Harvard Business School has defined it as the pursuit of opportunity without regard to the resources controlled. So, what it means? You do not know what lies for you as an entrepreneur. The fear of unknown is always there, but you as an entrepreneur, you know how to identify a need or an opportunity. So I want to watch what I want, where I want, and when I want. So this was the problem statement that Netflix identified, right? And then, of course, we have million other things. Google search, Google for that matter, was also a startup when it started, and it identified the key problem that people want to have information at their fingertips. So as an entrepreneur, it's very important to be able to identify the need or opportunities. Of course, create a solution, which means do something innovatively, implement solution to create value. Now, when you are offering this innovation to the market, you have to bundle it up with a couple of other things, so that it goes out to the market as a solution, not just as one single product. So Google has come up with not only a search engine, but you have Google Ads, you have millions of other offerings which are going on. And of course, the combined value creation that they have done is definitely way beyond any measurable parameter for me, at least. So definitely you have to have an exit or a long-term strategy with your venture. And of course, doing something that's already being done is often not defined as entrepreneurship. It has to be something new, either a new business, a new way of doing business, either a new product offering or something like that, right? Now, when we look at opportunities, there are 4 characteristics of every opportunity that comes before us. Newness, something that hasn't existed before or been available before. Of course, a new way of cancer treatment, that's an exaggeration, but even a new way of ordering taxis for that matter. We earlier used to hail taxis using the hand, or we used to do phone calls, but now we have an app where we can easily, with the click of a button, we get a taxi at our doorstep. So, these are some things that you have to keep in mind while looking for an opportunity. And of course, perceived desirability, the opportunity should be such that it is desired by n number of people. Potential economic value, that means that the solution needs to have a market. You cannot be building something which is for a very small market and then you end up failing and you blame the system. But you have to build for the larger market and build for basic needs of a person, what you can do innovatively to fulfill those basic needs. And of course, the fourth and most important point is the development of any new product should be consistent with legal or ethical or regulatory standards. So, nowadays we see a lot of people talking about drone deliveries, but it's currently not legalized by the DCGA, and there are talks going on, and legal implications coming in, but it's a long way to go. So when you think of a startup, you have to think of all of these parameters, and in keeping with the legal or ethical standards, you have to build something which has value, is desirable, and is also considerably new, right? So we often think that every idea is an opportunity, but that's not the case. An idea can only be an opportunity, like I said, when it adds value to the customer, solves a problem, has the potential to make some money, and is a good fit with the entrepreneurship team itself. So it is, a good idea is often inspired by the entrepreneur's difficulties. But a real innovation is something what I call as better, faster, and cheaper. An alternative which can let you do things in a better way, a faster way, and a cheaper way. So that actually is innovation according to me. And of course, there are three critical pillars to the entrepreneurship continuum, which is creativity. You definitely have to think differently, and the output is new ideas. When I say creativity, it doesn't only mean art and craft or something of that sort. It means you should be able to think of a problem when there's a chaotic situation. You should be able to think of how to solve that problem and create an output in the form of new ideas. And then, of course, you go on to innovate, and the output is a prototype. And finally, you go to market with your new product or service or solution. And that's actually what's called entrepreneurship. So then there are a set of people working with you. You have to set processes in your company. So value creation in the marketplace comes at that stage. So definitely these three are very important, and of course they are driven by science and technology trends, societal, economic, and marketplace needs. So building the customer value proposition according to their needs is something that can be done using a technology push as well as a market pull. So when I say technology push, it means you can find a tech-enabled solution to a problem, just like Uber or Ola did. They found that an app caters to the need of customers who want to take rides. And of course, they also identified that market is ready for it, right? Because people were increasingly switching to smartphones, right? That was the right time when they launched their product. And of course, these two go hand in hand. And the best ideal situation is to go for a technological development only when you have a market pull. You need to do a thorough market research before you actually think of doing a business. And that's what we at Ideas program or at DSSE, in the courses that we do, we often advocate this kind of a situation. So let me introduce just briefly what is DSSE. We are basically fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in the IIT Bombay community. So, when you look at the overall ecosystem at IIT Bombay, there are 6 parts to it. First is innovate and ideate. Of course, I talked to you about the journey in that pillars, where the Institute Technical Council has certain labs. ECEL, of course, comes up with a lot of events. E-Club again. So these are components which help you to innovate and ideate. And then, of course, you also can incubate and accelerate your idea at the campus itself. There's a proper incubator in place, signed for that matter. And in between, there's a gap where you often need to polish your idea a little bit in order to be, incubated by these incubators. So that's where you need a little bit of education on how to go about prototyping or how to go about frameworks for validating your idea. So that's where we come in. We have minor BTech minor courses, UG and PG electives. And of course, we have pre-incubation programs like the Ideas program and the Women in Entrepreneurship program at IIT Bombay. And of course, we say that we are smoothing the student entrepreneur journey right from the innovation to the acceleration phase, it comes and of course these pre-incubation programs, let me just tell you, that come with certain grants. So in Ideas we have level 1 and level 2. Level 1 gives you around 50,000 to just travel, talk to people and get more market validation, and level 2 is where you get around 2 lakhs for building your initial proof of concept of your ideas. So it can be an app, it can be a physical product. We our focus right now is more on technology entrepreneurship, but having said that, we don't discourage ideas which are more market friendly and are also aggregator or marketplace based. So this is the team at DSSE. Many of you might have already met Professor Anu Narasimhan. She is a strategy and marketing professional with more than 20 years of experience and has worked with famous companies like Titan and then Britannia. Professor Devdeep, a very seasoned marketing professional, a social entrepreneur himself, takes some of our courses. Professor P. Kumaresan is a professor at IDC and takes care of our proof of concept courses. Professor B. Ravi is, I'm sure many of you might know him. He has done some phenomenal work in medical devices. And we also have adjunct faculty, Professor Raj Jaswa, Professor Nishant Tikekar, Professor Umakant, Professor Rajkumar Hirvani, Professor Vinay Dabholkar, all of them teaching different aspects of entrepreneurship. And of course, it all boils down eventually to you having a startup. We also have honorary professors of practice, Dr. Anand Deshpande, Ramesh Mangalareswam, and Rizwan Koita. This is the team. I take care of the pre-incubation programs, Ideas and WIE, and Deepa and Alka are the people who take care of the courses. Shweta is into accounts, and Mr. Shakti, if any of you happen to walk around in the DSSE building, which is for that matter on the third floor of Monash building, you'll see him always around, and he's a wonderful person to talk to if you have any initial ideas. He has been with DSSE for the last 7 years. So make sure you make use of all this ecosystem. So this is what we offer currently at DSSE. We have entrepreneurship electives or minors, introduction to entrepreneurship, innovation and intellectual property for entrepreneurs, marketing and finance, and technology venture creation. So these are the subjects in which the minors are offered. We have hands-on and DIY labs, proof of concept lab basic and proof of concept lab advanced, mentoring and pre-incubation, ideas, which helps you come up with a problem solution fit, an MVP of your product and a business plan. WIE is specifically for women entrepreneurs, and that also has certain benefits and offerings. And we are currently in the process to launch an online MEng program by August 2023 with 4 core entrepreneurship courses, 3 technology electives, leadership electives, and capstone projects. So, our mission is to advance the overall technology entrepreneurship, create the mindset, and help startups register formally with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs of India. As of now, we've had 2,800 students across our courses and labs. And in the pre-incubation programs across Ideas and WIE, we've been able to impact around 900 individuals. And out of this, in just 6 years, there are 50 startups that have been registered with the MCA. So, of course, we can see an increasing trend in our courses. Just give me a moment. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, so this is the Ideas program, level 1, level 2, and this is the kind of outcome. I just have water. So 22 startups have been created. I'm really sorry, my throat is not good today.
That's fine.
No, just to end, these are few quotes that I've written as an entrepreneur, few experiences over the years. So I want you all to just take a minute and sort of reflect on this.
Ma'am, if you want, we can take a break of around 5 to 10 minutes. Or if you want, we can even end this session.
So we can go ahead with the Q&A, Muskan, now.
Okay, okay.
Done. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So, shall I read out the questions for you? We have a few questions on Q&A.
sure.
Okay, so we have a question from Harshit. It says, if I find 3 different problems that people are experiencing in their everyday life, and I have some ideas, or you could say some proposition about solving the 3 problems, which filter or criteria should I use to enable myself to choose the problem that I want to work on other than the market size and need of customers?
Okay. Filter or, so first thing I think you should use as a filter is the market size, like I said. Your idea should cater to a population which is more, definitely a market size greater than 1 million population, something that everybody needs, right? Because 100,000 people paying 10 rupees would make your market larger than 100 people, agreeing to pay 1,000 rupees. So definitely that is something you should consider as the first filter. And again, there are things like, as I said, the next filter should definitely be whether you have the right technological expertise to execute the idea. And if you have the right team, that's all. I think market size and need of the customer, you've already told that. And I think one of the most important factors that's often ignored is also, the lack of clarity on segmentation of your customers. Segmentation is often ignored. So for instance, I was just talking to one of the teams in Ideas who are building a blanket with embedded lights. Now they want to sell it to trekkers, but trekkers might not be the actual customer segment for them. It's more of a fancy product, and it could go into the children's segment or the kids segment very well. So segmentation and knowing what should be your target market is very important. Does that answer your question?
I hope, Harshit, that answers your question. Okay, so can we move on to the next question?
Sure.
Okay, so it's a question from Praveen that says, you have mentioned that the current market conditions are slowing the growth stage for startups. What would be the significant factors and future of tech startup industry?
Slowing the growth stage. What would be the significant factors and the future of tech startup industries?
Yes.
Okay. Current market conditions. Definitely, there's a prediction that the recession is here, and startup funding is a little slow. So I think significant factors and the future of tech startup industries, I don't know exactly what you mean, but significant factors going forward is more moving towards sustainable and revenue making startups. Now the entire game of valuation has sort of changed, and investors are no longer offering fancy valuations based on vanity metrics. They are looking at real numbers, and that I think is going to be central for quite a while. Does that answer?
Praveen, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so till then we can move on to the next question. The next question says, what is the difference in the kind of learning experience that an individual undergoes while working in a corporate and his startup?
Okay. So, when you're in a corporate, you don't have the flexibility to do a lot of things. There are certain set processes and you have to work according to those. Now, this comes from experience, since I've also worked in corporates and also, worked in one of my friend's startups. So definitely, the entire difference lies in the flexibility and freedom to think outside of the box and be able to execute it. In a corporate, you might think, but you might not have the freedom to execute it. Whereas in a startup, you'll often be appreciated for these thoughts and you might be able to execute it with your team as well. So that's the central difference.
I hope that answers your question. Okay, there are a few questions that I have on my DM, so if we can move forward with that.
Sure.
Okay, so now the question states, at which stage in the startup journey a founder should start looking for an external help?
Only when you're making revenues. Because trust me, all that works in the business world is numbers. So if you learn the science of valuations, I'm sure all of you will do, your MBA students. So it comes in revenue multiples. So if you are, so just as an example, if you're growing very slow, less than 10% year-on-year growth in your revenue, then your valuation is a 2x to 3x multiple of your current yearly revenue. When you are growing more than 10% and up to 50%, it's a 10x multiple of your revenue. So for instance, if you're doing a 10 crore business per year and you're growing, let's say, by the next year, you're a 20 crore business. So that's almost a 50% growth, right? So then your valuation becomes 20 multiplied by 10 more. So you are a 200 crore company. So that's how valuation works. And you should definitely not think of raising before you have done 3 months of consistent revenues with some at least growth, 5,000, 10,000, doesn't matter, but you should have revenues before you start raising for funds.
Okay. And I think the next question is somewhat related to this. It asks, what according to you is a better strategy for a founder, getting funding right away or bootstrapping the venture?
So bootstrapping, like I always said, is a better strategy, and it allows you to retain much more ownership of your company, because once you give away too much of equity right at the start, your decision making goes for a toss. And I've seen that happening. I've seen companies failing by doing that. They often think, yeah, money is everything that I need to start up. But trust me, money comes after a lot of factors. You need to have a good team first. You need to build a scalable business. You need to have people pay for your product. Only then you are set for success, definitely. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so ma'am, just one question from my end. Since you
Yes.
said that entrepreneurial success, one of the key factors is identifying the right source. So what according to you are some of the other factors that contribute to the success or failure for the startup according to your experience that you had?
So, I think two factors according to me are very central. One is the team itself, right? Team is very important. I have been saying this right from the first. That team is so important because you need to have complementary skill sets in your team. So, I have coined a specific term for it. It's called the minimum viable team. And I often use that slide in my pre-incubation program talks, that you have to have a hipster, a hacker, and a hustler. Now, a hipster means somebody who can create the user experience for you. A hacker means somebody who codes or writes the codes, the technology person. And the hustler means the person who can hustle to different places, build business for you, build your strategy. So you need to have a good mix of all these three people. It cannot be one of other or one of others. So, and of course, you need to have the roles distributed very evenly. Documentation should be in place. So as entrepreneurs, as startups, we often ignore the importance of paperwork because we feel it's more corporate thing. But definitely trust me, having the paperwork right will take you a long way. You should have it right from the very first. And whenever you are starting up, even with your friends, even if it is a friend, you should have a co-founders agreement, because co-founders quarrel is the maximum, is the reason why majority of the startups fail. They often have a rift, and most of them go different ways, and the startup just lurks in the open. So it's very important to do the right paperwork, have a legal advisor on board. And definitely these are some things that we at DSSE and Ideas can help you with. So yeah, look forward. Many of you should be applying to the Ideas program in the next call. We are opening the call probably in the next month. I'll definitely let the E-Club team know. Any more questions? Happy to take them offline, or if you have time, then now.
Okay. Yes, I think we can take up a few more questions that we have currently with us.
And Muskan, just it struck to me, as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to manage money and how to manage people. If you learn these two things, I assure you, there's nothing in the world that can stop you from becoming the next Elon Musk. Seriously, I mean, these are the two things that you need to learn, whether you are an entrepreneur or an employee at a corporate. Learning to deal with people, because you'll come across a lot of different kind of people, and learning how to deal with them, and learning to manage money, being thrift, being lean during the startup process goes a long way. So yeah, these are two. Yeah, go on, Muskan. Any more questions?
Yes, there are a few more questions. You can
Sure.
do that up. Okay. So one question is, what are the biggest challenges that you face being an entrepreneur?
What are the biggest
challenges that you face being an entrepreneur?
Biggest challenge is learning to deal with people, of course. When you are young, you go without corporate experience, you go without the usual training how to learn to people. You are often very bad at that. So for that, I took a lot of advice. I had mentors who helped me, and eventually I learned. So that happened in the second startup, and I had my startup get acquired. So definitely, I think that was the biggest challenge for me as a person. But for other people, there are multiple challenges. You often don't know how to manage money. As first-time entrepreneurs, you just ride the bus and you're like, I have money and now I'll live the dream. Many people, what they do is start living the dream too early. They go out, they party, and they often forget about the real business at hand. So that, I think, also becomes a challenge when you don't know how to manage money. You hire aggressively and you end up paying people a lot more than they deserve. So these are some very small mistakes that people might not tell you about, but these are some things I faced firsthand. So that's why.
Okay. So I think I have one question from an anonymous attendee. So you spoke about one of the important aspects for success of a startup is to deal with people. So how do we learn to deal with people?
You read psychology, you watch movies on psychology, because once you know what's going on in the mind of other people, so if you all can just go back to Google and do a small Google search. Cognitive biases. So these are some things that people have when they are speaking to you. So there's the confirmation bias. When you are asking a question, and if you point out that you have the solution ready, people will often answer that, yes, we need this solution. There's the confirmation bias. As MBA students, as school students, I'm sure you all will learn this for going forward, but this is something you can do individually also. This is a very simple exercise. You have to know psychology, you have to know biases so that you can overcome them.
Okay. Okay, so I think there are two more questions that I have currently.
Sure, Muskan. More than welcome.
So one is, from your observation, what are the biggest mistakes made by startup entrepreneurs?
So I think we already had that question once, right? Biggest mistakes.
Okay, I think we had the biggest challenges and now it's the biggest mistake. So more or less it's the same.
Okay. So biggest mistake, I think, building for a market that's not there. You know, when you're building a product that's for a very small audience, or the audience has not gotten used to, the product yet, that's a big mistake. So as a first-time entrepreneur, you should definitely focus on building a product that has a market. So that's the biggest mistake, definitely. Market research, not doing market research.
Okay. I think I had one last question. So there are a few questions from students who are not from IIT and how they can be associated with the programs that DSSE has. If you could just highlight on some programs that they can apply to.
Right. So as of now, Muskan, we have kept ideas only exclusive to IIT-Bombay students. But definitely there are plans to scale up and go outside the institute. But the Women in Entrepreneurship program is across India. We have a WhatsApp group, and if you have women founders, you can associate through them in our WIE program. And definitely ideas at a point will definitely come up, and of course we are launching the MH courses. So if you want to learn from firsthand from our professors, then that's the best way to associate with DSSE.
Okay. Okay, so ma'am, I see no further questions. If there's any last word that you want to share with everyone who's there on call with us.
My last word would be, I believe anything is possible. That's the 10 years of my life, guys. The 10 years that I have been an entrepreneur. I have been an IIT graduate myself and have done a lot of mistakes, have made money in some of my ventures, lost money in some of my ventures. So I am usually very honest about the experience. And I think you have to also believe that anything is possible. And, to make it possible, you have to take risks, you have to be focused. And of course, you have to build a solution for people and solve problems for people. Money definitely comes as a byproduct. So that's my only advice.
Okay, so I think there is one question if you would want to answer, Rajeshri.
We have time, yes, but I'm not sure, Muskan, if we have time.
Okay, we have time for one last question. We have the next session on 6:30. You can take that out. Okay, so Rajeshri is asking, market is there, but product is a Me Too kind of product. Should one go on building into such a product?
So definitely if the market is there and it's a different kind of product, you should focus on the delivery. So, coffee was always existing, right? There were cafes, but Starbucks focused on the delivery mode, right? They created an entire experience that people can have at a Starbucks outlet. The entire experience of working from a Starbucks outlet, having Wi-Fi to help you work. So all of that should be kept in mind when you are doing a Me Too kind of product. Your main focus should be on the delivery of that Me Too product. Then that becomes your USP. That's all.
Okay, so thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out your time and addressing us today. I think we have the next session on 6:30. So I'll request all of us to stay back till 6:30. We'll begin our next session at 6:30. Thank you.